right, we are thrilled to present our next segment where we will dive into the potential of Hong Kong, Middle East, and North America's financial partnerships and innovations. Please give a warm welcome with me as we invite our esteemed speakers to join us on stage. Please, everyone, welcome Mr. Ghassan Jumblat. He is a director of Fintech, ICC-DMCC. Thank you so much for being with us. Mr. Sardar Durrani, he is the general partner of Osiris Group. Mr. Miyake, he's the general manager, chief commercial officer of Global Commercial Bank, HSBC. And of course, we have Mr. Oscar Wendel, director of MCH-Global, also here to moderate our session. Gentlemen, all over to you.
Thank you so much. We're going to be focusing on the fintech and financial sector here. This is their expertise. And what we're going to be talking about is the opportunities for Hong Kong companies to come to the Middle East, MENA. We all have experience in Dubai, Joe, all across the Middle East. Durrani, experience in Hong Kong and all of the Middle East. Ghassan, of course, all of the Middle East as well. So in these 25 minutes, we're going to get the most out of them to give you the best overview of exploring the potential of Hong Kong companies coming to the MENA region. I want to start with you, Joe. Tell us about the potential that you see and how you partner with fintechs and startups and scale-ups going to the MENA region.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, and it's good to see you again. I saw you earlier this week in Singapore. So, you know, I think first and foremost, as a chief commercial officer, I'm very much focused on growth, so it's really important to be talking about this corridor. It's not a corridor that's very well known, but I think there are a lot of factors that I think make it very interesting for us from a growth opportunity perspective. As we think about HSBC, we're at both ends of the corridor. I think everyone's very familiar with HSBC's stature here in Hong Kong, but the lesser known fact is we've actually been in MENAT for 130 years. And we have over 300 offices there. So we have this very unique perspective of what's happening across that corridor. Maybe just share some statistics to put this into perspective, first from a kind of a macro perspective. But if you look at the trade flows that have happened between China and the Middle East, it's grown considerably and doubled from 2010 to 2021. If you look at China's position in terms of a trade partner to the Middle East, it's actually knocked Europe off the pole position and taken that position. And already with Saudi Arabia, they're the largest trade partner. So already, I think if you look backwards, there's a lot of activity that's been happening. I think what's really interesting, though, is what's happening very recently. And I think in December 22, you saw a big Chinese delegation go to the Middle East. They openly signed 34 investment agreements across green energy, photovoltaic batteries, technology, IT, finance. So there's a real intent there. And I think it's interesting because the delegations have also come back and forth. So I think there's a lot of activity back and forth. It's accelerating, and I think we'll begin to see some of that really take shape over the course of the next year or two.
So I want to move on to you, Ghassan. Tell us about what companies you see coming to Dubai and what the journey is for them to get established.
Sure. You know, I've been in Dubai for the past 4 or 5 months. I've almost attended every event in regards to fintech, Web3, AI, and I found it flattering that I can see many companies from China, Hong Kong, in those events. I've been for the past 10 years attending events in Dubai, and only recently you see a lot of people from companies from China and as well as Russia. So these are DMCC is you know, one of the biggest free zones in Dubai. They facilitate the startup companies in terms of legal matters and licensing. You know, in Dubai, you can have a free zone company or a mainland company or an offshore. So they help you with that legal matters and the capital requirement. They help you in licensing and obtaining the proper regulations and compliance papers. At the same time, Dubai is very competitive. So I always recommend that for any company to start up in Dubai, to do their due diligence and to choose the best fit, whether it is a free zone or on the mainland. DMCC has been there, it's very big. They have like 23,000 companies, almost on monthly basis. We have like between 170 and 200 companies opening in DMCC. So they're doing their best in terms of helping, providing whether it is physical desk or flexi desk, it's a virtual desk. So with networking events, they run quite a bit in order to have the companies meeting each other and discussing opportunities. They facilitate it to the max, and we can see that with technology now, AI and Web3, between Hong Kong and Dubai, there is collaboration in order to push that technology forward.
It is a shocking number, 23,000 companies. That's got to be more companies than you have in entire nations.
It is a big number, and the scale, it's like between 170 to 200 companies every month.
So how long does it take to get established? If I'm a Hong Kong company and I want to set up my startup or scale up with 5 employees, I get on the flight and come talk to you.
You gotta talk to DMCC. You know, I'm a company within DMCC. So it takes a few months. Best recommendation is to work with a legal partner there and with a government institution, depending on your business. But it doesn't take much. It takes like between 2 to 4 months, and you can be up there and established.
So Durrani, you invest in all kinds of companies all over the world. You were living in Hong Kong for a long time, and now you're finding opportunities in the MENA region. What are the challenges for companies to come to the MENA region, and more importantly, the opportunities?
Thanks, Oscar. I'm glad to be here. Yes, I've spent 15 years in Hong Kong. I've done investment banking, then gone on to the buy side. And the first step of moving into MENA was understanding and coming to terms with the stark difference in culture. So I think most of the startups here need to kind of, not just startups, even the investors need to get over that hurdle of understanding that just like in Beijing in the old days, you had the concept of guangxi, that you need to go build trust first, and then you can step in and do a transaction. It's not transactional. You can't just fly in, do a transaction, and fly out. We had to learn the hard way, because in Hong Kong is a very efficient place. So when you go in a meeting, you wanna capitalize quickly and move on. In Saudi, and especially in UAE as well, you have to build trust first. And the same word for guangxi they use over there is wasta. So you have to build that wasta, you have to build that trust formalities as well, where it would take a few meetings of just asking how your family is doing before they actually get to work and exactly what they want you to do. For startups, I think one of the biggest concerns I have right now, or challenges I have right now, that you're right in asking the question that what do I do if I need to move there, right? I fly in, get something up and running and come back. In fact, one of my portfolio companies is DMCC based as well in Dubai. And then the second company I have IFZA, which is Silicon Oasis based. Third one, we have a DIFC license as well. So I've tried all of them. My suggestion would be you choose based on which sector focus you have as a startup, and choose the right category free zone, because every free zone has a tint. I'm not saying all of them can do everything, but each free zone has a tint for a certain kind of sector. So choose your sector, or whatever your sector is, find out which free zone covers that, and then costing is an issue as well. DIFC is the most expensive and the others go lower. So as a startup, you're always concerned with costs, so are investors, so keep that in mind. But then finally, I think the biggest issue of what Middle East wants right now, as an investor, I can tell you this, because this is a conversation I have with my investors, my LPs all the time. They don't want to deploy capital outside to get returns. They want IP. So if you have good IP, they will lay out the red carpet for you. The regulators will line up. I'm bringing 2 or 3 companies from Hong Kong into Saudi Arabia as we speak. And they were shocked when they came and met the regulators, including ADGM guys in Abu Dhabi. So they came out and they said, this is the first time in our life that a regulator is telling us what to do and how quickly and easily it can be done, rather than take all licenses, compared to, say, in Hong Kong, where when they get a call from regulator, they're scared that, oh, something's wrong, we're going to get a fine or something, right? So yeah, just figure out a space where you plug into that IP. Most of these countries have it on their websites that what are their target areas for the next 5 or 10 years. Saudi Arabia has Vision 2030. UAE has its own strategies as well. So go on their websites, find out if your startup solves a bottleneck for these countries. Reach out to that department, and you will be surprised on how quickly they will pave your way coming into that market.
I was really interested in your cultural nuance point, because I think it is important. And you know, as an international business, we're in a lot of markets, but one thing that we've really started to observe as we've engaged with the tech sector is, as companies at a small scale try and look to expand, it's less about the banking products for us. They actually approach us for our network, the connectivity, who's playing in the ecosystem. And I think that's a trend we're beginning to see that means that we as a bank have started to have conversations that have nothing to do with financial products to start with. And I think it's really about the conversation of the ecosystem. And as you look in the tech space, I think unlike many other industries, the interconnectivity that the community has is on a different scale.
Yeah, I'd like to point out what you're saying here, that MENA is not just one market. And what's really special with the Middle East is how the regulators are working with attracting companies and creating business opportunities. But with that, you have a lot of harmonization requirements. And HSBC, you've got I would arguably say, the best network and the most established network, not just within the Middle East, but globally, to support in that. When you're a fintech, you've got so much regulations in each separate market within the MENA region. It's not like you get established in Dubai. You can't even necessarily deliver the same service in Abu Dhabi without the ADGM license, much less Saudi Arabia. So you need to be working with the different regulators for the licenses, and not least with funding and so forth. And how does HSBC support in that journey?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting for us because we're quite pervasive in terms of an international platform. We're agnostic to where companies want to go because we pretty much have a presence everywhere. And oftentimes you need an understanding of the company itself and the business. So really understanding them at its origin and then having a deep understanding at the destination. I think you have partners that we would reach out to really understand the local. But again, a lot of our franchise has been there for an extensive period of time. And so that conversation that we can have with our customers has very little friction because we have such a deep understanding of how to do it and how to do it quickly. And so, you know, whether you're a small company trying to expand, large company trying to expand, we're pretty agnostic to it. I think interestingly, actually, in the tech space, and as I said, I just came in from Singapore, you know, even though companies start off very small, their life cycle in terms of scaling is very quick. And investors, and maybe you can comment, they're not looking for companies that have a business idea that works domestically in one market. You have to start global first. And so what we're seeing is this conversation of international and the network and how they expand quickly almost being the first conversation, not a subsequent conversation to having scale in a domestic market.
So on that point, Durrani, the financial sector here and also the fintech is very advanced in Hong Kong and quite a different type of banking services that you see in MENA and a different demographic. How do you see the overlap there and the opportunities to tap into the different strengths?
So generally finance is sort of generic across the globe, but you're right, there are definitely nuances there. UAE is an advanced market, so it's already full of fintech. Everyone from India to Egypt to the US to European fintechs are all functioning in UAE as we speak. They could be everywhere across the whole chart, right? You've got everything from the crypto side all the way to mainstream project finance side guys, right? So there's low-hanging fruit still in there. There'll be consolidation. I think there's just too many players in that market. So someone big, for example, from China or Hong Kong could swoop in, buy a few of those products and sort of create a larger pocket that we would fund, because that would just solve so many of that competitive issues. But at the same time, Saudi Arabia is an example where there's low-hanging fruit everywhere. So I'll give you a very small example. Me and my partners were walking in the city and we just wanted to buy something quick. And no department store would take a Visa or MasterCard. And we didn't have local cash, so we couldn't even give them. So the only card they had to use was something like an octopus card called MADA. So that interconnectivity between platforms is available. Someone has to swoop in and do it. Other platforms like split payments between players, right? Between, individuals. We have PayMe here in Hong Kong, which is, I still use it, even sitting in Hong Kong, in Dubai. I still, pay my friends through PayMe. But they don't have that platform. Careem, which got acquired by Uber for $3.4 billion, Careem had a small wallet angle for a while, but it never really flew off the handle because it was just too cumbersome, too many clicks to do one transaction. So stuff like that is available in those markets. It's just a matter of, you can't do it from here. Teams have to get up, have to arrive in Dubai or Saudi, sit down on the ground, build that relationship and go further.
A reality check here. Most fintechs are not profitable. We spoke earlier before going on stage that you have a 10-year perspective. You also highlighted that you have a long-term perspective with the early startups going into a new market, especially a market that is extremely saturated in the paytech space. When we talk fintech in MENA, most of it is paytech. I want to ask you how you view the risk profile when you choose the companies to support, and how you view the potential of their being viable, because a lot of fintechs, it's just a race to the bottom. It's hard to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think depending on where you are in your life cycle as a company, you're going to have different financial needs. I mean, you may have seen that we just announced a collaboration agreement with Antler, which is one of the big regional accelerators. And we're providing, we're the preferred bank partner for all of the companies going through. And these companies are going from day zero. As a banking partner, we don't think about it just as kind of banking capabilities. We have growth advisory, we have thought leadership, of course we have transactional banking accounts, and those needs and how they're tapped by a company really depends on how mature they are. But fundamentally, I think for us as a bank, and I can go into a little bit about how we're supporting this economy as a whole, it's about banking the customer from the beginning and seeing them through the relationship. It's not about kind of coming in and out depending on the stage of the company. So we very much look at that. And I think as you partner with accelerators, they're also doing their own filtering and funneling. So you can kind of rely again on the ecosystem in terms of the companies that you're looking at, the technologies. In terms of how HSBC positions itself vis-a-vis the opportunity across multiple sectors, even within the new innovation economy, again, we're pretty agnostic. So you would have seen we've actually increased our balance sheet commitment in the region for our new economy fund to about $3 billion, which is sizable. And if you think about that in the context of smaller companies, that's a vast footprint you can create. You're seeing us, you saw us launch in New York Climate Week, $1 billion commitment to climate tech, which, as everyone knows, is a key subsector within the innovation economy. So, we're very serious about this. I think, going to my earlier point around how this corridor is developing and bringing it back to the corridor a little bit, we are accelerating and putting our commitment at the same rate as these things are developing. And so we're very confident that we're kind of partnering in the right way and kind of capturing the opportunity and seeing these companies hopefully go from day zero all the way through to being household names.
We're just going to go from victory to victory between Hong Kong and MENA. I just want to ask each of you to give your final comments, starting with you, Ghassan.
I think we are in a phase that is very, very exciting. With Web3, AI, and the development we see, we are in a very good phase in our life. We definitely have to help out to grow that industry. Between Hong Kong and Dubai, I think we are in the best areas for such advancement. Like I've been to GITEX, and this year GITEX had their own at the harbor for blockchain and AI. And I went there. There's one place where you see the big companies, the big booths, and you don't see much of new ideas. Meanwhile, if you go to the other place where the companies have small booths, only 2 or 3 people, you actually find and discover ideas that, wow, top of your head, whether it's in education, tourism, finance. There are very bright ideas out there that we need to tap onto and to help them because they are small, very small startup companies, but with great ideas.
So for me, we're a private equity shop, so we do some VC, but mostly is PE, so companies have to be slightly later stage. But happy to open our Rolodex any day because we look for companies across Asia to take them to MENA. That's one of our mandates. At Osiris, we used to do only frontier markets, but now we're looking into emerging Asia as well. And one of the primary reasons for that is we're choosing companies that have become big in their own ecosystems and want to now transcend borders, but they can't get to have that leg up. So happy to include you in our own profile, or just help you get your leg into MENA as well. The governments are already working at it. So for later stage companies, dual listing modules are already created. So between Tadawul, which is a Saudi exchange, and Hong Kong Stock Exchange, they already have a JV or MOU for dual listings. You can actually list in Tadawul or Hong Kong and get a dual listing on the other side as well. So those mechanisms exist, but they usually exist at a slightly later stage companies. For earlier stage companies, my advice is find your use case, get the right partners in the door, and they'll help you through the channel.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the corridor and how it's scaling is clear. I think it's worth remembering a lot of these jurisdictions are policy driven, and where there's intent, things will happen, and you're seeing it two-way. You know, I think the simplest thing is come and speak to us. You know, we're agnostic. We know these jurisdictions. We work with our partners, and we can introduce you and really demystify and simplify that experience as you go through an international expansion.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, Oscar, for being our moderator. Everyone, please be seated.